Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine. Rick, who would normally be with us, is having all kinds of difficulty with his internet. We're trying to get him to reboot his router and see if that brings him back in some better forum. If he can't be on the air with us, he will be hanging out in the chat room to answer your questions. And with me is Brian. And we have Rox as well, and me, and that's how we're going to do this until anybody else shows up who wants to show up. We start off with something that we weren't sure was going to happen. The Cleveland Indians are in fact playing tonight in Minnesota, but it almost didn't come to pass. The way it plays out, the St. Louis Cardinals were in Minnesota, and two of their players wound up COVID positive, and so the fear is now that that there are players that could have been exposed to this because they were at the Dome in Minneapolis, and so Major League Baseball gave the go-ahead to continue and play the game. That was granted a little bit after 4:30 this afternoon, and I kind of think that is, I guess maybe it's healthy for them to have waited, and in fact, I'm sure the teams all tested their players. That doesn't mean that any positives that it doesn't exist. It's just not showing yet, or it's not there. So I'd rather have the Indians play because they're playing really good baseball right now, especially from the defensive and pitching side of the game. And anytime we can have a chance to beat the Minnesota Twins, I say, especially in Minnesota with all the cardboard cutouts and the horrible CGI graphics that Fox put in yesterday's game, which was like, nah.
Oh, I missed the CGI.
The CGI was really, I mean, it was ridiculous. Old people feeding pigeons. I mean, it was like I don't know what it was, but it wasn't.
Laurel and Hardy beating each other up.
Yeah, doing a little dance in an old Western type movie. Yeah, it didn't impress me. So that's that. So
I really had to object when they cut to the Camptown Races song, though.
Why? Who would object to that?
There's no desert in Minnesota. It's the land of 1,000 lakes.
Oh. Boy, I that's too oblique for me. I'm really.
The Blazing Saddles scene where they're singing the Camptown Races.
No, the Camptown Ladies.
Or the Camptown Ladies.
Yes. Ooh, up, do up, do up. I don't get a kick from champagne. No, I'm not even going to revisit that. So the starting lineup for tonight's baseball game, which is starting our time at 10 minutes after 8 p.m., happening at Target Field. The game will be shown on STO, as well as on your favorite WTAM 1100 AM radio if you're in Northeast Ohio. Mike Clevenger takes his act to the mound with a 0-0 record, a 2.57 earned run average against right-handed pitcher Randy Dobnik. Now, I don't know, he has a 2.25 earned run average. He is considered kind of an extra pitcher on the Minnesota staff, so he is a right-handed pitcher. Therefore, you're going to see more left-handed bats. You're going to start out with all the wonderful switch hitters, Cesar Hernandez, Jose Ramirez, then Lindor, then Santana, then Franmil Reyes, and then Jordan Luplow gets his opportunity. Domingo Santana, Bo Taylor, Oscar Mercado, and then the Twins are going to throw up this lineup with Max Kepler leading off, Josh Donaldson, Jorge Polanco, or Jorge, but George Polanco, Nelson Cruz, the big bopper, Eddie Rosario, who has given the Indians grief in years past, Jake Cave, the center fielder, Marwin Gonzalez at first, Luis Arraez in second base, and Alex Avila behind the plate. So an opportunity for Clevenger to try to continued chasing Shane Bieber. I mean, which is crazy. What Bieber is accomplishing right now, he's tied the major league record since 1901, 27 strikeouts in the first 2 games of a season. That is, in and of itself, a remarkable accomplishment. And to do it on the road against a team like the Twins that has a potent lineup, and he made them look like a junior college team. He was just, this is like what we would see when Klubot was on, really an impressive display. Hey, Pat Seagramson looking to jump in. Hey, there he is. I want to ask you, do you believe that the Illuminati are reptilian?
One form of it, sure.
I mean, it was really funny. Brodney Poole, the former defensive back for the Cleveland Browns, posted on Twitter, or was it Facebook? It was on one of them. They're indiscernible these days. And his tweet was, "Good morning. Bill Clinton is a pedophile. Have a blessed day." So I wrote him back and said Jesus Christ was a reptilian.
Okay, but what do you call an adult male who has sex with underage girls?
Well, if
that's
proven,
a pedophile in my book.
if it's proven, but you probably believe in Pizzagate too. The thing is, we have this system of jurisprudence in this country. It does. I mean, look, what I wrote back.
No, I believe the FBI when they say that pizza has been used as code by pedophiles in their child pornography and other things.
Yeah, but they were claiming that there was an actual pizza shop location that the Clintons and the Clinton Foundation was running a pedophile ring out of. So that was disproven, and that was just as untrue. That's the
same
stuff.
Same location where Obama had his $75,000 hot dog party.
Well, I mean, again,
by the way,
we have a system of jurisprudence. And when I explained to Brodney afterwards that I'm a big Browns fan and I enjoyed watching him play, but I was disappointed because you cannot make a statement that somebody is a pedophile without having proof of that. And you cannot be accusing people, and it goes beyond calling somebody a name. It's a vicious accusation. And I said to him, if it's true, the man should spend the rest of his life in jail. I think we all would agree on that. Making a big deal, and he was making a big deal out of the fact that the kids need to be protected. I agree. I think they need to be protected from COVID as well as from, conspiracy theories. And I think until something is proven, it's a conspiracy theory. And I am not going to sit here and say that Bill Clinton is not a womanizer. We know he is a womanizer. So is Donald Trump a womanizer. And there is evidence that, that is cloudy evidence. And I don't really talk about how he met Melania and who she was working for and how her profile was coded when she was working as a model, okay? I don't get into that because there are stories and there is truth. And if I don't know it's the truth, you leave it alone. They met because they were in social circles together and they hit it off and they got married. And that's good enough for me. I don't have a problem with it. So, Brodney now understands where I'm coming from. It isn't that I want pedophiles to get away with it. It's that I want to be able to determine who the real pedophiles are instead of just calling everybody a pedophile. And without politicizing it, because there is no political affiliation for pedophilia. You can be a Democrat, a Republican, a socialist, or an independent. You can be a pedophile. So, and you can be a Christian and you can be a Jew. You can
even be a royal.
Yeah, and we all could be royals. Yeah. You can call me Queen Bee. We'll have no more Lord references on the show. I promise you. All right. At any rate, without getting
Lord
into
Fauntleroy.
Shane Bieber, what a season he's having so far. I mean, the thing that I love watching this guy pitch is it just reminds me, from a mechanical perspective, of Kluber just that he is repeating the same motion over and over again. He's throwing so easily. He's not quite topped out at the 95 that Kluber would be, and he doesn't have the wipeout slider, but his control is so spot on that he's on the corners. He's got movement on his pitches. He can throw the curve. He can throw.
He's got
the
a very
slider.
nasty 12-6 curveball.
Yeah, and gets guys swinging at balls out of the strike zone, and gets guys taking pitches that have movement going away or coming back over the plate, which was also something that Kluber used to do. And he's just very, very mechanically sound. And, you know, he pitched 8 innings, 102 pitches. You don't want to burn these arms out too early in the season. But it was impressive, and we needed that because one swing of the bat and one mistake by Berrios determined the outcome of the baseball game yesterday. And the teams had other opportunities, but, you know, the Indians strung 2 hits together in a row, and one of them left the park. And it was after the first one went into right field for a single. So, you know, they put a 2 spot on the board, and then it was shut down city. We were all curious to see who was going to close the game. And I'll go back to what I talked about in the last program about Brad Hand. I think that, you know, I think the last thing I said was we're in for another Bob Wickman wild ride until somebody realizes that he's diminished. He's not the same pitcher. Now, Francona said, oh, well, the gun in Cleveland is, you know, a couple of ticks off, you know, and he's trying to make everybody feel good about this, but I'm watching Brad Hand, and the fact of the matter is he's throwing up 79-mile-an-hour sliders, and he's throwing fastballs that are 91 predominantly, and
he needs to turn into Charlie Huff and start throwing the
knuckleball. Yeah, I mean, 12 miles an hour difference is not a problem, but it's in movement, and there isn't a tilt on the slider like there was previously. His arm is.
But 79 miles an hour is high school speed.
Yeah, but for a slider, I don't, you know, I watched him, you know, when he pitched, you know, for the Padres, and he was a 95-mile-an-hour fastball thrower who had that off-speed breaking ball, and it was a lot more effective. And you put 4 miles an hour onto something, and it can change things considerably. It's not that I have anything against Brad Hand. He has the experience, and for that reason, and we know the way that Francona thinks because we've seen him stay with veterans far too long. As a fan, I've seen Shaw, and I've seen Pestano, and I could go through a list of, you know, Andrew Miller. Now, these are just recent people. I can just go through a list. When
Jose Mesa,
it
goes all the way back to them.
Well, but you know, Mesa was a head case, and Mesa went on to pitch, you know, and hit Omar Vizquel after he left the Indians, or throw at his head, like he promised to do. But Joe Table never really, he didn't just like, you know, lose 4 miles an hour, you know, on his fastball, on his heater. When something like this happens, this is not, and it's not an uncommon thing. Brad Hand is looking at the downside of his career, and he is going to get smacked around. And the sure sign of it is that they're sitting on that slider and curveball and yanking balls and pulling balls off of him that are giving them extra base hits. And he's in immediate trouble. He was answering things saying, well, you know, it's not like they hit me around. Well, no, I mean, the fact of the matter is you didn't have good control of your pitches because you're doubting your own stuff, because you're nibbling at the plate, because you don't have that really good stuff. Yeah, Kremlin Q saying Doug Jones probably has some arm left. There was a guy who threw slow and slower. Doug Jones, he was something. 86 mile an hour topped out fastball. He threw an 86 mile an hour an 84, an 82, and an 80, and he had a changeup that would go like 72, and but he would screw hitters into the ground because they could never get the timing of his pitch. But I do believe. Hey KB, I'm glad that you survived Hannah. How was she? Oh, how about her
But did
sisters?
she? Did he survive the sisters?
Yeah. So I beat you to it. I'm sorry. I should shut my mouth and just hand the punchline over to somebody else. I'm so selfish. My goodness. But
I got to be quicker on the buzzer. It's my fault.
you know, I am thrilled that Karinchak got a chance. I started doing some research about Karinchak. Do you know anything about this guy, Pat?
I don't. Is he a former Red?
Not a communist? No.
I don't know why you're asking me about him.
Yeah. The thing with Karinchak is his background. He went to Bryant College, which is nothing. He was undrafted out of high school. Nobody even wanted him out of high school. And he ended up like the 313th pick of the Cleveland Indians. He in 2017 he did a little stint at Mahoning Valley, which they all do, and then in 2018 he was between Lake County, Lynchburg, and Akron, which was low A, high A, and double A ball. And then last year he had an opportunity to start up at Akron, and then he really pitched a lot in Columbus. But in Columbus, he had a 4.67 earned run average, and really there's nothing here that would make you all that excited about this fella. 17.1 innings totally pitched at AAA, 14 hits, 10 runs, 9 of them earned, 13 walks in 17 innings. But then there's this 42 strikeouts. And this is the intrigue. It's what I was referring to as the Shuey comparison of a guy who's kind of got awkward mechanics, whose ball is all over the place. Karinchak has created a lot of his own problems in a twofold way. One is falling behind in the count because he just doesn't have great control. And the other thing is he's got this monster curveball that has a tremendous vertical drop, but he has trouble really throwing it for strikes. And then he's got a 95 to 96 mile an hour fastball, but you can sit on that at the big leagues. And those are the only 2 pitches that he has. So he doesn't have that third pitch. So if the curveball is, and he doesn't have a get me over curve, his curve is a corkscrew. I mean, this damn thing dives. And if it doesn't go over the plate, the hitter will just wait him out, wait for the 95, 96 mile an hour heater and smack it. So I decided to look in a little bit deeper into this guy's statistics because there isn't that much of him. But in the time that he has pitched, his, this year, of course, he's pitched a little bit for the Indians, and the stats would show that the exit velocity of balls coming off of the bat against him is very normal, very average. They barrel up on him, average. So it's not like a pitcher that gets really limited contact. They're barreling the ball up. He's in like the 47th percentile in the league. So what it's telling me is that if he doesn't have control over that curveball, things change tremendously. The other side of the coin is he's in the 95th percentile of not being hard hit. In other words, it's hard, they're barreling the ball up against him, but really hard hit balls aren't happening much against him. In strikeouts, he's in the 89th percentile. And that's just this year. And the swings and misses in the 67 percentile. So, these are all just analytics. And I know people get bored with analytics. But, I'm looking at all kinds of things. His pitch percentage by season. back in 2019, when he really got the most of his innings in the minor leagues, which really weren't that many, he was throwing his curveball 42% of the time and throwing his four-seamer, his other pitch, 58% of the time. But now, all of a sudden, he's up to about 47.5 to 48% throwing curveballs, and he's down in the 52% range of throwing his four-seamer. He's gaining some confidence, and the hitters have no clue how to hit the curveball because it's dropping off a table. I mean, seriously, it's got a lot of movement on it. And the fastball has a slight downward motion according to the metrics that I'm reading online as well. My point about Brad Hand and how it all comes together with James Karinchak, because James Karinchak may just be the flavor of the week at Baskin-Robbins. He may not be a guy who's going to be a long-term solution. But the Indians don't have a closing arm right now. That's the problem. I mean, you have experienced guys, but experienced guys who are 39 years old, or experienced guys like Whitgren, who really you don't want to fuck with the guy who's the setup man, because you take him out of his accustomed place and then you're moving two pieces instead of one. And you're looking at who's in the bullpen, and Cam Hill is the other guy who got a chance to close the game, and he's throwing 92 to 93 miles an hour and really doesn't have any credentials as a closer whatsoever. And then there's Karinchak, who at every level has had this phenomenal strikeout quotient. I mean, he strikes out hitters. The problem is he doesn't always know where the ball's going. He's got a closer's arm. The question is can they work with him and his mechanics? And he's rolling good now, but when he reaches into a game where his mechanics start to fall apart and he loses control, is it going to get into his head and is it going to fuck him up? And Rick is asking closer by committee. And boy, you just don't like that. You really like to have established roles. The starting pitchers are not going to continue giving you 7, 8 phenomenal shutout innings. That's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to go right from your starting pitcher right to Whitgren. You've got Perez, you've got Ali Perez, who's 39 years old, who's kind of right now the seventh inning guy. You've got Plutko, who is a guy who was a part-time starter, a spot starter, and a long middle innings guy if your starter doesn't do very well. And, there's not a whole hell of a lot right now in the bullpen. So Karinchak is the closing arm. The thing is that we're going to continue to see Brad Hand, unfortunately, and I don't mean anything bad about Brad Hand. He was a very fine pitcher in San Diego, and he had a good record in saving games. But we saw it at the end last year when we needed him down the stretch. He just wasn't there. His arm went away, and the fact that he's had all of this time to build up strength, all of this time to rest because of the pandemic, and he comes back with a 91-mile-an-hour fastball, that's less than it was last year. It just tells me that he's on a downward slope. I don't know what else you do. No, Paul Ossenmacher is not available, and Mo Vaughn is saying, praise God. And you have to be an older Indians fan to understand that whenever Mo Vaughn came to the plate, he would take one look at Paul Ossenmacher and literally bail out of the batter's box. That long looping curve by Ossenmacher.
Hey, Moo, one of the things I was listening on the radio today, what about Plesac? What's his opportunity maybe to step into something like that in the future? Obviously not immediately.
He's the fourth starter. Plesac has proven that he's a starting pitcher, and you need that. The thing with Plesac, he's a step down from obviously Bieber. He throws at about 93. That's what, maybe tops out at 94, like Bieber. and his control needs to be very fine. Not to the degree that Plutko does. Plutko is a guy who really needs to spot the ball and gives up many hits per inning. Plesac is a bulldog. Plesac has presence on the mound and an attitude, but I don't know that you can expect him to come out there and, as the fourth starter, put up the kind of appearance that he did in his previous game. But no, you don't want to take anybody who's stretched out of the starting rotation. Your starting pitching is what carries this team in a shortened season. Just the last thing you want.
Well, he's got damn good genes too.
Yeah, I mean,
because Dan was a hell of a pitcher for the Brewhaas.
Yeah, he is a surprise. Plesac is a surprise. And right now I consider him a very pleasant surprise, and we'll see as, teams get used to him. But he looked real good last year, too. He just seems like he has composure and that he belongs out there. And, behind Carrasco, if Carrasco stays healthy, you got four guys who are reliable. The fifth slot with Plutko is questionable, but it is on every team in the league. So, it's for the Indians, Brad Hand is going to be your closer, and Francona's going to give him every damn chance. Too many damn chances. And once... you can't afford to put him out on the mound in a situation where, you got to let him get his feet wet, maybe in games that are not 0-0 going into the top of the ninth inning. He's too hittable at this point, and I don't see any sign from his early appearances and his late appearances last year that there's anything different, except that it's even dipped another notch. So that's the only bad thing I have to say about the Indians. I mean, we're getting help from a lot of the hitters on the team. I mean, we're getting help from the top of the lineup, from Cesar Hernandez getting on base. Lindor is finding his power stroke. He's still swinging at a lot of pitches out of the strike zone, but that's because he's no longer a leadoff hitter. He's a number 3 hole hitter, and when you get into that situation, they expect more power, more runs batted in, and more production. So he maybe is pressing a little bit there. Ramirez looks good. Carlos Santana has started making contact. He had a little trouble the first couple of games, but his eye is still sharp. He gets his walks, and he's not over swinging and going pull happy. That's all good. Bradley Zimmer in spot duty has looked good. It was a concern of mine that defensively he might have been a little bit frightened because of the injuries that he's had and crashing into walls and diving after fly balls. But he's shown a willingness to go to the opposite field. He seems to have brought his hands down a little bit at home plate at his stance. And, he's not trying to jerk everything. He's always had a tremendous exit velocity off of his bat. And if he can elevate the ball will leave the park. But, he showed a very good piece of hitting a couple of days ago where he went opposite field in an important situation of the game to keep an inning alive. This is what you look for from him. But Mercado is a concern of mine. Because, again, I look at trends, and the trend that I see with Oscar Mercado is that he got off to this real balls-to-the-wall start with the Indians last year, but then it really cooled off at the end of the year. And by the time the season ended, he was down to a 269 average. And I know people don't go by average, but what I can tell you is he's a free swinger. He's not a guy who's going to take any walks whatsoever, and he goes up there hacking. And if they have discovered whatever his nitro zone is and they're avoiding it, he's going to have a problem. And I see Bradley Zimmer at this point having a better chance of being a regular outfielder. Mercado covers a lot of ground, but he's got to start making contact with the baseball. And his power, which has been questionable throughout his, minor league days when he played the Cardinals organization, real questionable. Last year, there was pop off his bat. He hit some home runs. That's not something that has been expected from him. They said that he had been working on the launch angle prior to joining the Indians, and it was showing, but I'm not seeing very much pop or contact in that bat right now. That's another concern as far as a regular position. And we're living with backup catchers, and so that means Sandy Leone, and it means Bo Taylor, and you're not going to get any offense from those guys. Sandy Leone does have the ability to handle pitchers. I don't know about Bo Taylor. He's 30 years old and been a career minor league player. Not sure about that. But so far the pitchers are, the pitchers are being handled. And, our starting pitcher, Roberto Perez, is on, 10-day IL injury.
Yeah, when your major concerns are backup catchers and the guy in the 9th spot, you're sitting pretty good overall, though.
I agree.
So.
I agree. I mean, obviously, things could be a whole hell of a lot worse. If you're the Cleveland Indians, you're 5-2 and at first place. And the longer you hang in with the Twins, the better off you're going to be. But remember, the Twins are going to get a little better because they're going to get some of their pitchers back who are down right now. Berrios pitched a much better game against us than he did his first time out, so I know that they're breathing a sigh of relief. He got off to a little bit of a rough start with Cleveland because he wasn't locating his pitches, and he ran up his pitch count. But he has been tough on the Indians in the past and was tough again for the innings that he was in the game. He just ran up his pitch count. But Minnesota has a strong hitting lineup. And the Indians have a stronger starting pitching lineup to throw at people. And that's what makes this interesting as far as these two teams are concerned. The Royals don't look like much to me. The Tigers have a decent record, but I really don't know what.
Well, the Tigers have a decent record because the Reds were asleep the first 3 games and somehow lost 2 to them. So I don't know how that happened, but... Well, I mean, I do know how it happened. The Reds lineup is overrated.
Yeah, I mean, for the Indians, I think scoring runs and stringing hits together is going to be an ongoing problem. And I think the Twins are a team that can put up, and even the White Sox can put up a lot of runs because they have pop in their lineup, guys who can hit the ball out of the park. The Indians are still very top heavy as far as their, the first 4 or 5 hitters, but, beyond that, it's a question mark as far as productivity and driving in runs. So you take what is, Dactar says that your mic is pretty hot. Dactar's not referring to your microphone.
You mean like Tony Grossi's hot mic? Or
no,
is this something different?
He's not referring to your microphone. He's saying it's pretty hot. Wait, I got something in my eye. Yeah. Dactar is on acid. But no, you're fine, Pat. You're fine. Because you're kind of a laid back guy,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, do you believe that... I wanted to ask Brian something. Do you believe in the reptilian conspiracy theory?
No, it's all... That whole thing is just bullshit.
Why in the world would the President of the United States give this woman, without vetting her, all of this airtime, only to find out that she's an absolute kook? Why? Why?
But it can happen.
Why?
It can happen to anybody.
But the White House is supposed to vet these people. They're supposed to say, "Hey,
I know, but
he jumped the gun. He jumped the gun, and those people didn't get a chance to vet." I understand that. They got to control him. He can win this election. Donald Trump can win this election. But they got to take over his campaign. They can't let him keep doing this shit.
No, she was talking about the pyramid on Mars or Moon. Hey.
And Bronk is saying my mic is low. Is my mic low?
Yeah.
Here, we'll go like that.
Low.
Now it's not. Now it's not. It's just flip a little knob,
At least you're not sounding like Beelzebub, like
That's
other
true.
shows.
That's true.
Exactly, Dactar.
That's a Zoom thing,
V and V, the final battle.
I'm reptilian, And so I'm proud of it. But I mean, it really is scary when somebody who was a doctor.
No wonder you
okay?
had a gator trying to mate with you.
That's exactly right. I mean, seriously, Elton John is one. You know, the Crocodile Rock song. I mean, there are a lot of reptilians that are, unidentified, and I think it's our responsibility to come out. If Bill Clinton's a pedophile, then Elton John is a reptilian. Okay, what?
Ams came up with a Land of the Lost reference.
Oh God. But it really is amazing how, and it's like somebody was asking me, how could that person be a doctor? And I said, lots of crazy people used to be something. You know what I mean? Insanity is something that hits people at different times in their lives. They say that schizophrenia hits people when they're 21, 22, 23. But there are many different types of mental illness, and there could be dementia going on there. You just don't know. I mean, to hit Robin Williams, I mean, dementia hits people at can hit people at young age. It's not unheard of. And this woman is obviously, she's doing sermons now out of Alexandria, Louisiana, which if she were a real big time scientist, she wouldn't be doing that. She's crazy. She's lost her mind. And it's too bad because maybe at one time she really was a fine mind, a medical mind, scientific mind. Not anymore. Inspector Clouseau. Not anymore. Inspector Dreyfus.
While I have you live and on the air, what preparations are you and AMS doing for the big storm?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I'm seeing all of the models, and they've shut down all coronavirus testing here for the next 5 days. We're in no man's land, and they're still not sure how this thing is going to hit. But it looks like the most common model that is being flashed is Melania Trump. No, the model that is being flashed the most is going up the east coast of Florida, and it's right in Amsterdam's West Palm Beach, kind of that whole scenario there. But not really. We're going to get the after effects on the West Coast, which is winds and rain, but not to the degree that the East Coast is going to get it. We're not making any provisions because there is no evacuation talk for this. So far, the storm has not exceeded, from what I understand, 70 to 75 mile an hour winds, which would not make it anywhere near a Cat 5 hurricane status. I think our side is not expected to get it this time, but this is just the first hurricane of the year. So stick around. But wait, there's more. So, yeah.
Well, but there still could be a lot of damage from storm surge, etc.
Oh, sure. I mean, you're going to see all kinds of wash up on the beach. You're going to see damage done, especially to some of the mobile homes. If the winds really get bad, roof damage, tree, power line issues, those types of things, definitely. And Bronk remembers Leroy de Bovine's Babe montage. Used to drive me crazy, Bronk. I mean, I'm trying to do a sports talk show, and he would just be flashing women with big hooters. And I mean, it was like, it was like,
I like big tits and I cannot lie.
Oh, he had a big time breast infatuation, and he had folders full of them that he could just flash them at will. And it was like, and I'd be talking about something that was, serious in the world of sports, and he'd be flashing bosomy women. It's like, make it stop. Damn. All right. But we remember Lee. Lee was quite a character. I miss him. I think a lot of people in Lee's life miss him. So here we are at 6:39 in the evening, and the Cardinals and Brewers game has been
shelved.
No, not happening. And the story that I think most speaks to me as far as this pandemic is the whole Florida Marlins team, which is now the 20th positive test between 18 players and 2, staffers. and they had to get a bus. They put them on a bus and drove them back to Miami quarantine style. Half their roster, more than half their roster, 2/3 of their roster, basically, going home on a bus. I don't know, man. I know what Roger Daltrey would say. But can I have your COVID bus? Bus, COVID. Oh, sorry. You can't have it. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
Hey, better that than hepatitis or leprosy or something.
Yeah. So now it's up to 21 members of the organizations in the past week, and all of their games have been postponed through Sunday by the Major League Baseball. I mean, this is crazy. That team gotten hit so hard, and anybody who's gotten anywhere near them now is under very close scrutiny. So,
doesn't bode well for the Miami Dolphins.
No.
Oh, shit.
Well, right now, you know, you don't...
Can you imagine if 60 players on the football team came up that way?
Brian, this is where the NBA is being played. I mean, there's nothing good to be said about an epicenter of a pandemic. I mean, and they picked this area to do all this sports stuff, and it's like, whoa. You know, but you know, the Cardinals and Brewers called off.
In case he had a bus.
Yeah. I'm just, you know... at a loss. This thing's teetering, you know, and all it takes is 2 more teams in addition to the Marlins, and you're always backtracking with this thing because you're always looking back. Who did you come in contact with? And you're always contact tracing, and you're all
right
a couple of days behind, you know.
Right. So I was hearing also today that there was there any updates? I mean, the Indians and the Twins are going to play for sure, right? Because there was
tonight,
talk today about contact tracing because of the Twins played the Cardinals last, right? So
yeah, the game's on, but I mean, there is, and I'm sure they tested every player, and every player tested negative. But you know, the problem that you have trying to figure out, you know, and I was going back and looking at Herman Cain, who passed away, unfortunately, at the age of 74 from COVID, who was in your state, Brian, in Arizona, for the Trump Wailing Wall performance, and also at the Tulsa rally. So in one of those 2 places, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say it was definitely the Tulsa rally. We don't know that. What we do know is that the
Tulsa rally was where the 3 Secret Service agents also tested positive.
Yeah, I mean, and we're sure that there were people in the audience who were positive, but we don't know that there was, you know, what kind of outbreaks were caused by that.
And they had turned away over 1,000 people doing the temperature tests outside. So,
yeah, I mean, there's no question that it's it's out there. But in the case of Herman Cain, you know, the 20th was the Trump date, and it's not at all unusual to have, you know, you can be asymptomatic up to 2 weeks, is what they've said. But the majority of cases start showing anywhere from 3 to 6 days, 3 days to a week is what they say, to really start showing symptoms. And you don't usually get hospitalized unless you're really having serious respiratory issues. If you just have a temperature, they're going to say, they're going to have you on standby at home saying, keep an eye on that. If it goes above 104, we're getting your ass in here. Or if your cough has led to respiratory and breathing problems, we got to get your ass in here.
But he had three prevailing deals against him. Number one was his age. He had stage 4 cancer, which has already compromised his
No,
system.
he had stage 3. He had stage 3 cancer, but it had
Oh,
spread to his liver, and they gave him a 30% chance of survival all the way back in '06. All right. So this was like 15, 14 years ago that he had to go through all the chemo and all that. And that still is a factor. It's still a factor.
Yeah, because my mom had stage 4 colon cancer, and the chemotherapy has permanently altered some of her stuff. Like she can no longer eat beef and some other things.
Oh yeah,
she has new food allergies. So
it ravages the body. Yeah.
And number 3 was the fact that he black, and for some reason,
is he?
And for some reason, that's it's really does a number on black people and American Indians.
Yeah, it's and Hispanics. It seems to be taking advantage of ethnic groups. The thing about Kane is that he went into the hospital July 2nd. I really wanted to piece this together because, again, it's become a political football. But I think it's pretty clear that he announced that he had the virus, and he was hospitalized very quickly after his positive, and he never got out of the hospital. And, so he was obviously being intubated and all kinds of things.
Once you go on the ventilator, your chances of survival are
gone or
right into the fucking toilet.
Yeah, and that has been a pattern. But the sad part of all of this is that we're getting a good indication. And again, this is not fear-mongering.
And this is what I had the argument with that lady on your Facebook wall over the fact that age is an actual consideration for who lives and who doesn't. And that's why I described it as a kill zone, because even I can pull up I can share the
it's true of all flus. I mean, that older people, the older you are, the more susceptible.
Yeah, anybody over the age of 50. I mean, 95% of the deaths in Rox's home state of Oklahoma were over the age of 50.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that, and it's not just COVID, it's for all flus. The danger is the older you get, and it's the respiratory after effects of the disease very often. It's not just the virus itself, it's what it ends up affecting. And it finds weaknesses in people, and older people have respiratory weaknesses. I don't know that Herman Cain had respiratory weaknesses going in, but it could have been affected.
Well, but he's already
by the chemo.
Like we said, he's already got a compromised immune system.
Right, and I think that had everything to do with it, which makes me wonder why an educated man who is the CEO of a big company would have chosen so cavalierly to go out in the midst of this without a mask on. And it is unfortunate, but I think that what it tells me is just what baseball's telling me. I'm not going to sit here and say, I want baseball to be canceled and start all that crap. But what I am going to say is, you can see how easily caught this thing is. And I think that this has been played down for political reasons that, it's really not that easy to get. And hell, it isn't. In the right circumstances, it is very easy to get. And it's very easy to get in enclosed areas and in crowded spaces. And look, I would not be real happy in the Dodgers organization. Dodgers pitcher throws at the batter's Astros head, and the players come out on the field face to face, yelling at each other and spraying at each other. If any one of those players is positive, there's a real chance that could end up.
And what about the umpires?
Yeah.
What about the support staff?
I mean, the whole thing is, it could be a breeding ground for all kinds of things. My point is,
now you've been watching the games. Have they even had bat boys and that kind of thing?
No, I mean what we're seeing.
So it's strictly coaches and players.
Yeah, but I mean not all the players. You'll see the players in the dugout, and not all of them are wearing masks all the time. And but when they get out on the field, none of them are wearing masks during a brouhaha. So, I mean, you
Yeah.
know, that's not good. But I guess what bothers me is
It would have
all
been
the,
funnier if they were all wearing masks and yelling "Cobra!"
you know, the thing that bothers me is that people have played down how easy it is to catch this in the right circumstance and have downplayed the significance of masks and turned that into a completely political argument instead of a health argument. And I think this is what bothers me more than anything is that this shows us that in the wrong circumstances, it's very easy to catch. And if somebody like Herman Cain catches it, he's dead meat. And if there are children who, you know, and as much as kids don't have much of a statistical issue with this, and I got into this with Rodney Poole earlier, you know, it's like, yes, the teachers would be at greater risk than the students, but some of those kids might have really aware of. And that would be a hell of a way to find out, having your child removed in a fucking body bag because you weren't sure that was the case. We are putting everybody at jeopardy to catch this virus. We're just not sure what it's going to do to them. We're not sure. In a lot of cases, it will do nothing to them. And in some cases, it will do nasty things. And in some cases, it'll do deadly things. And it's to be taken seriously. This is not fear-mongering. This is common sense. When we sit here and watch this and do a podcast and watch what's happening in Major League Baseball, it gives us an indication that the thing is real. And I think that the notion, and I understand what you were saying to me, Brian, online regarding hoaxes and what references are to hoaxes. And, you know, it's just like, you know, the hurricane warnings we get that suddenly veer off, and you know the Weather Channel makes it look like it's the next apocalypse. You know, the final battle between man and the devil. But you know, and then it turns out that it's really not that significant, and then people really get pissed off because they're like, "Well, I'm not going to believe them the next time."
Yeah, it just ends up knocking down a couple of palm trees or whatever.
Yeah, but you see, the problem is with this pandemic.
But then the next one blows out windows in a massive hotel or whatever.
When people who are in positions of authority are playing down the significance and utilizing statistics that would say, well, don't worry, the death rate is low on this and yada, yada, yada. And to me, it isn't the death rate. You know, no death is acceptable. No percentage of death is acceptable to me. No age group, no type of person. There's no justification for justifying death statistics. But in my mind, the real concern is the positivity, how easy it is to catch. And now we're finding out from 25 to 34-year-olds who are very social and in mixed company and in close quarters, just how easy it is to catch this thing. It is to be taken seriously. And, you know, don't make it a political argument, you know, and, you know, and I don't think, you know, I heard Fauci said that, you know, people should start considering wearing shields. And, you know, I don't see
And goggles.
Yeah, I don't see that that's going to happen. I think that, you know, I think in certain businesses, yes. And definitely there were shields. I went into my dentist and had some work done to help finish this implant off. And the dentist had a shield on.
This just in, Shoei helmets stock climbs 3,000% over the last hour, as people are buying more motorcycle helmets to go shopping at Walmart.
Yeah, you know, it's and Trembly Q is pointing out, and you know, if you can blow out a candle flame and it's from a distance of 6 feet, I believe, or is it 6 inches? I'll have to go back and check that. If you can blow out a candle flame, we'll say 6 inches away through your mask, it is simply too porous. Then you're not really going to be able to stop COVID. But I will say this about masks, because it's gotten way out of hand. A mask won't prevent you from getting COVID. It is a tool, okay? It is a tool. If you are touching your face with your hands, and you are going to get the virus regardless. If you touch the outside of your mask and it's contaminated, and then you touch your face without sanitizing, you're going to get it. The mask is one layer of protection. but it's not the be all end all here. And people are becoming way too hyper focused on this. I would not want any health professional anywhere near me without a shield on. I'm sorry. My mouth is open, man, and a guy's working on my tooth. Fuck that shit, man. If you don't got a shield on that's blocking everything, including multiple masks, which they have, I ain't going. So for medical professionals, the standard is one thing, but no, walking your dog with a shield on, I mean, I don't think that's the intention, you know. And no, cheesecloth is not a mask, and neither is Tommy Copper and the bullshit that they're advertising on television, and all these companies that are making fashion masks so that you can have them in multiple colors to go along with each of your purses and outfits. This is strictly a layered density issue. If you have a good mask, you're having a harder time breathing in it. That's what dense material does. Think of it this way. Have a wool blanket. Go under that wool blanket. Put it and surround yourself over your head in your bed and try breathing with a wool blanket over your bed. It's going to get hot as a motherfucker and you're going to have trouble breathing. All right? Then turn around and put something like one of your tennis shorts or rugby shorts over that is a wicking fabric and just put that over your head and you have no trouble breathing. It doesn't take Einstein to figure this out. You know, you're going to have a problem breathing. Nobody would suggest that a layperson spend hours in an N95 mask. Now, professional people have to, and it's difficult. It's uncomfortable. Rox and I have found out we have KN95 masks, which are Chinese masks. I used to have a Mao Zedong mask, but now I have KN95 masks, which are the newest Chinese Halloween masks. And some of them are more effective than others, but we can tell you with certainty that it is far harder to breathe with a KN95 mask than it is with a surgical mask on. So you can take that for what it's worth. You notice I haven't said anything about the NBA. So LeBron won another game for his team, yada, yada, yada. That's great. And, oh, isn't that amazing? The Pelicans came back in the end, yada, yada, yada. And even though, you know, Fat Boy didn't play that long for the Pelicans. He never plays that many minutes because he's got little pelican legs, all right. But Zion, they got to get him further along and yada, yada, yada. And I really don't care. I honestly don't care about the NBA. My Cleveland Cavaliers are not playing, and this is a Northeast Ohio sports show. And I love LeBron James. LeBron James doesn't know that because he doesn't know me. Brodney Poole now knows me, and he knows how much I love him.
Moo, I did a double take when I saw Jordan Clarkson. He looks like Moses now or something. He's got this ridiculous hairdo and this huge beard. He like looks so much different.
Yeah, was he
when
carrying
was he
a
last
staff?
with the Cavs? Like a year ago? Like
He needs a shepherd's hook.
But yeah, I just did like a triple take when I saw him on the court. I'm like, who the hell's that
Yeah,
guy? Oh, he looks familiar. Just hard to believe how much the Cavs
Well,
have changed.
there are a lot of people probably don't miss the Cavs,
then.
but I want to see, Kevin Porter Jr. and I really want to see how he develops as a player. I want to see how Colin Sexton develops. I want to see how Darius Garland, develops as a player because Darius had a tough go of it his rookie year. The game is so fast, so when you're a point guard, he has to improve his finishing capability at the rim, and he's got to really work on his outside shot, or else he's just another,
Well, we quickly got some time left here. Do you have a favorite prospect in the draft coming up?
the NBA draft.
NBA for the Cavs, yeah.
No, and the Cavaliers don't have a great pick either, as I recall.
It's still up in the air. The lottery hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, well, but I mean, their odds are not outstanding. Let's just.
I think it's anywhere from like 2 to 6 or 7 would be the worst, I would say.
Yeah, and again, if you're in the top 5, you're going to get a European player or a collegiate player, but it adds just, the European player might add a little bit of experience, but not in the American game, of wisdom, if you will. And another young, talented player just puts another inexperienced guy who's learning the game on the floor. Very hard to build this way in the NBA. But I just want to watch my team play. It bothers me that, and I've said this for ages about the NBA, it's my problem with the marquee league concept and the marquee players. It just bothers me that there is the haves and have-nots, and it's such a distinct differentiation in the league, so that now that it's gotten to the point where they just dumbed it down so that there are teams that don't matter at all, and the Cavaliers are one of those pointless teams. I still want to see them play. I mean, that's what I do.
Well, who knows what was going to go on with that second bubble that they surmised was going to happen in Chicago.
I mean, they're not.
I haven't heard anything about that. But
nah, that's
why
lip
even
service.
Yeah, why try?
Anything to make it look like they really give a shit about these teams. But I mean, really, the other teams. I mean, does anybody care about the Utah Jazz? Does anybody really care? I mean, you're just looking at teams that are pointless, and they're going to get thrown off as wreckage to the side of the road, and it's not going to. It's going to come down to the same principles every time, and I've seen it, been there and done that, and I always say. Yeah, I'm ready to take my bad medicine watching the Cavaliers because honestly, if they're well coached, that's all I can ask for. And if they're teaching young players, that's all I can ask for. Got my championship as a fan. I got my championship. That's it. I don't expect anything more from basketball in Cleveland ever again. I would like to think that the Cleveland Indians could win a World Series, but I don't see with Dolan as the owner how in the fuck it's going to happen. And the Cleveland Browns, as long as idiots at the helm Haslam, boy, it's hard for me to envision that team. I just want the Browns to make the playoffs, right? And I always say that it all begins the same way. You got to make the playoffs to win the championship. And I know it sounds really routine, but, the second season is called the second season for a reason. God, that rhymes. And, it all starts over. You can get hot, anything can happen, but you got to get there. The Browns have to get out of their division. It's just that simple. And now the Ravens have really, lifted up. It's going to be hard to get in any other way but through the wild card. And that's going to mean you're going to be playing on the road throughout the playoffs. And so it goes. The deck is stacked. It's difficult. But I would just like to see them make the playoffs so that we had one playoff game, so we could look back to the last one and say, oh, do you remember when Holcomb threw that pass and Northcutt dropped it? That kind of thing, Bring back all the fond memories of Browns playoffs in the past, So
I just have one NFL dream for next year, and it's simply that Roethlisberger tears his ACL and ends his career. And oh man, that would make my year, and that's it. That's all I hope for.
Well, to me,
I want to see his arm fly off like Dave Dravecki.
I think that we have a real hate case against the Steelers, and I think we have a damn good reason to. I think their players and their coach are mean-spirited. I think they try to hurt people, and I think they always play innocent after the fact. I think there's a lot of retaliation that gets called against the opponents, but they're starting and stirring the pot all the time. And with many different lineups, many different players, this is the way they're taught to play the game. I don't respect Mike Tomlin, and I think that he's a fucking liar, to be very honest with you. And I think Mason Rudolph did say something, and I think that he deserved to get his lights punched out. He deserved to get hurt a lot worse than he did get hurt. And the fact of the matter is he's a no-talent, bullshit, third-string quarterback that you're not going to hear from ever again. And there were just as many guys cold-cocking Browns players from the side, on that play that were hitting people. They were double teaming Myles Garrett, and literally one's holding his legs while the other's pounding him up high. They're cowards. I've always said the Steelers are big time cowards, and you got to answer fire with fire. And I don't think what Myles Garrett did was smart. I don't think that it was timed at a time that was, why? Why when the clock's out and the game's over? Why would you do it? I think there's a lot of frustration that's built up and a lot of antagonism. And I want the Browns to play tough physical football and not back down from these people. And the league fronts the Pittsburgh Steelers and helps them get away with this shit. And sometimes you just have to go off the deep end and hammer somebody. Now, as far as Ben Roethlisberger is, look, the Steelers are not the Steelers without him, but he's getting older anyway, and the day's coming one way or the other that he will be gone. And, and when that day comes, the Steelers are going to have to figure out what the Ravens figured out, maybe get lucky in the draft and get a fine young quarterback like the Ravens did. And the Ravens are going to find out what life is like living with a running quarterback and having, one snap away from perhaps devastation. The thing that I like about the Ravens quarterback, I think that, he's gifted. I mean, just flat out athletically gifted. And he's
human highlight reel.
Yeah, and he is learning the game. The thing that I didn't like about him last year is he started showing cockiness and arrogance. And, when he was in the open field, juking around and doing things, you don't fucking play at this level, folks. You play, but you don't play around. And too dangerous having, 320-pound guys hurling themselves at you. All it takes is one stupid moment by a young man who thinks he's invincible. And the next thing you know, he's got no knee underneath him. So, I don't want anything bad to happen to him. I don't want anything. I want to win legitimately. I want the Browns to legitimately go in and hand them their ass. And I think Stefanski at least is a building blocks coach. May not get done this year, but I think he's going to have a plan. It may be a rather dull plan. It may not be the thing that is going to excite the fans, but I think fans at this point just want to fucking win, And if it's lower scoring games, if it's, possession kinds of offenses, it's not, lighting up the sky with fireworks, we'll take it. If it gets us into the playoffs, we'll take it. That's it. So, that's it.
And the most important thing is it gets the team over 500.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you play close to the vest, and maybe there are going to be some games that get away from you, but there's not going to be these games that we just hand over by turning the ball over a gazillion times and by not relying on our running game in the second halves of games, just ignoring ball possession and time of possession and allowing teams just to stay in the games and surpass us. There comes a time when you just have to control the flow of the game, and running the ball with the offensive line that we've just moved in. And by the way, Drew Forbes, who is, our 6th round pick, has opted out of the season. If you didn't know that, Southeast Missouri player who was supposed to be somebody who was going to help the Browns with the zone blocking scheme that Stefanski prefers, has chosen to opt out. He said medical reasons. We don't know what those medical reasons are, if he has something in his past that would make him more vulnerable.
Yeah, and there was also a tackle who was most likely going to get cut anyway.
Yeah, and but we do have guys who can,
step in and play.
Yeah. What were you gesturing, Rox? Who were you gesturing?
I was gesturing to Bronx, saying it's him. It's just him. He asked if it's just him, or did a gray recliner suddenly appear behind me today?
Oh, you have the wide screen on now, don't you? Yeah, I think that you have a different a ratio perspective. So, yeah, and usually there would be a cat in that chair. Notice how I didn't say a pussy in that chair. That would have conjured up all kinds of bad images. Welcome to Epstein Island. Boss,
Well, hello.
He played. Forget it. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. We will be back again, by gosh and golly, on Monday. We'll be checking in on the Indians and talking about that and more Brown stuff. And whatever comes up, we'll be here for you. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, hasta la vista, Pasture Heads. Good night.